When I'm talking to people about politics, I'm often asked, can we do both? And what I mean by both is both domestic and foreign policy, right? Do we have to choose between improving things on our domestic policy side and improving things on our foreign policy side? And this is an argument I get into all the time with people who I discuss politics with. So I figured that I would just take a little bit of time to kind of talk through why that is unnecessary and why that false choice even emerges. So to start, as I said, it is a false choice. There really is no reason we can't, as the saying goes, walk and chew gum at the same time. And in this case, right, do foreign and domestic policy improvements at the same time. And so one of the reasons I think this is the case is because oftentimes what the left wants in terms of foreign policy is actually the reduction in costs and spending and activity, right? We can engage in a peaceable and amicable and friendly, even if reserved, foreign policy that actually costs us less than the aggressive and imperialist foreign policy that we're engaging in now. Now, I believe in modern monetary theory, but if I didn't, I would then say, and you can use the savings from this very limited foreign policy to create domestic projects at home, which is essentially to say that these, not only can you do foreign policy and domestic policy at the same time, they are best done in tandem, right? You can take money away from the incredibly expensive overseas activities that we're doing, 800 military bases around the world, constantly doing these military exercises with other countries, having navies and the Air Force and all that just kind of patrol the globe like we're some kind of global RoboCop or some nonsense. And so as you draw down money from those, if you don't believe in MMT, then you can just transfer that over to domestic policy where you can build roads and bridges and schools, transform our energy infrastructure, and things like that. So, not only are we able to have a conversation where foreign and domestic policy are being considered at the same time, you can even have that conversation where you're considering those in tandem, where they're actually working together to create a general policy for the nation and the world that is better. And by the way, because I believe in modern monetary theory, we don't have to just look at foreign policy from a reductionist point of view. We can say, well, actually, because we can just print money, and there's essentially no concern about doing that, not only are we going to draw down our military engagements and our violent engagements overseas, we're going to use our money to incentivize other countries to transform their energy infrastructure, or to engage in peaceable trade or ethical, or some level of ethical consumption, or we're going to support international unions, or we're going to, we're going to support the creation of more airports abroad, right? Or more ways that people can interact with each other, create a more connected world, right? We can create the infrastructure, free internet for all around the world, right? We can use much like China's doing with the Belt and Road Initiative, by the way, they're using their currency to help other nations. Now, mind you, they are buying influence in the future, but that's kind of how foreign policy works, right? You do things to help other people. We did the Marshall Plan to help the Japanese and the Germans after World War II, whose nations we had completely destroyed. We can create goodwill, as costly as that might be, abroad, but at the same time, because we believe in modern monetary theory, because I do anyway, I would say that at the same time you're doing that, you can spend similar or even more money at home to cultivate a nation that really does shine compared to the rest of the world. We could have A+ infrastructure instead of, I think, C- is where we're at right now. We could have an energy grid that's wholly sustainable. We could fix our communities. We could actually use the money to prepare for the disaster effects of climate change, which are going on right now. We're in climate change right now. We can take, we can take the opportunities that we have to really change people's lives for the good, to really make America the land of opportunity as it once was, to really make it a place where people want to live and are treated well and where workers are valued and all that good stuff. Now, all this exists in a very kind of national context, but it doesn't have to, right? I'm just kind of talking about this in the sense of policy that affects you, the worker, me, the worker, every day. Now, of course, we would need a government that actually works for us, and, difficult, I get that. But the idea, I just wanted to take this time to dispel the idea that, we can have one or the other. We can invade Iraq, or we can build infrastructure, right? We can give other countries grants for sustainable infrastructure, help them build roads and things and bridges, or we can fix our bridges and roads at home. This choice is a false choice given to us so that we do not create the type of solidarity throughout the world through our giving and through our self-improvement and improvement of others that would really create the type of solidarity needed to help throw off the yoke of the capitalist oppressors. So I just think that when we're having conversations with our friends and our family about the things that we can do to change our country, and by the way, I actually just a little bit of a tangent here. I think when we are having these conversations, it's best to talk about what the left can do, not necessarily play the blame game about who isn't doing certain things, but to talk about our values, to talk about the types of things that we want to do, the type of world we want to create, because we're trying to sell a vision to people who may or may not be on our side immediately. So when you're selling this vision doesn't have to just exist within America. You can talk to people who are internationally focused or who are immigrants and say, hey, we actually can create a really good world for everybody. It doesn't have to be limited to here. And we can do it at the same time as we're improving our country at home. So I hope I've kind of dispelled the myth of having to do things one at a time. And I hope that if nothing else, you take away from this that if we have the willpower, if we can convince our government, if we can win, if we can put real lefties in charge, we can create a better world both at home and abroad. We can do it at the same time. Those goals are complementary and supplementary. They are not mutually exclusive. And I think the more that we think that way, the more we can focus and tailor our discussions and our selling our vision of the world to a wider audience of people, and thus expand the coalition that will allow us to actually get the objectives that we are pushing for and that we should be